Hi everyone, it's Matthew. Welcome back to my channel. Taking a little break from Emmy coverage because we're going to talk about the DCU, the wonderful multiverse that we all love to hate. Joining me today is Kyle. Kyle, please introduce yourself.
Well, I actually don't hate the multiverse. So,
Some people do.
Hello everybody. How are you? I'm doing good. Just saw while I was discussing with Matthew before we started the stream. I just saw Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and it was better than the Flash. So yay!
Really? What a shocker! I would have never guessed.
It's also better than Fast 10. So
yeah, that's not hard to do. I'm just gonna be sassy throughout this whole damn video.
about Fast 10.
Yeah, well, forget the DCU. Let's just bash Flash 10 for a half hour, shall we? I will be leaving links to Kyle's Twitter page and his YouTube channel in the description below. Show him some love. He's great. Thank you so much for joining me for this.
I don't know if you can see my shirt, but
And I chose.
Now, Matthew, let me ask you this: are you going to be the new DCU Superman?
No.
David Cornsweet beat you like in the last minute audition, didn't he?
Me and Anya Taylor-Joy said no.
That sounded like that must have been a great pairing because James Gunn knows how to pair these actors together.
You really do, but no joke aside, Anya Taylor-Joy as Lois Lane would be an interesting thing to see. Not a great casting, but it would be interesting to see it.
Anya Taylor-Joy could play any role she wants, and it will be interesting.
Let her be the next Batman.
Let her be the next Flash.
Yeah, I think she could be the next Harley Quinn, but we'll talk about that when we get to.
It's funny. I don't think I told anybody this, but when I wore this Flash shirt a couple of weeks ago when Elemental released, and I wore it to spite the Flash movie. I was going, I'm gonna walk to this theater. Everyone's gonna think I'm seeing the Flash, but no, I'm seeing a movie that actually respects its universe.
Exactly. Elemental was such a great movie.
It really was. I'm glad to see it's doing well at the box. I mean, it's not doing as well as I think many hoped it would at the box office, but it did have a pretty good second weekend. So we like to see that.
I think the reason why that didn't do so well was because of the 30-day window between that and Disney Plus.
Yeah, I mean, it's also the fact that they dropped all the Pixar films on Disney Plus about a year or so ago. So they finally, are starting to put them out theatrically, which it's not going that well for them, but that hopefully will improve, especially based on the word of mouth of Elemental.
Yeah, that's what it seems like it's happening. But speaking of box office, let's talk about Shazam and the Flash. Before we started, I was actually have a Shazam costume I was seriously going to wear for this one.
But Matthew, if you wore a Shazam costume, you won't be in the DCU.
No, I know, right? Do you think Shazam will even come back in a DCU movie, or do you think?
I think he'll come back in like 10 years.
Yeah, if Shazam does come back,
the character, not Jeffrey Lee.
That's what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But Shazam 2 flopped, but somehow the Flash did worse.
Which is, I mean, as much as I didn't care for the film, I do think it's sad to see when a movie doesn't perform well because, I mean, I think people are just going to be losing their jobs now over this film, and it's never a great thing to see. And I'm sure you heard, but they're taking Flash off of screens this week. Tomorrow,
about 1,500.
1,500 screens, or which is unfathomable a month ago when they were saying this is the greatest DC movie of all
Yeah,
time. Like, who would have thought that you would go to a theater in July and The Flash isn't playing? Like,
I know.
that's crazy. It's
I think one of the craziest things to think about is Barbie, which is coming out in a few weeks from the same studio, is estimated to make $80 million.
yeah. I mean, it's the thing though is that I think Barbie, people are really underestimating how, big of an IP it is.
Yeah,
So I think that is what helps in its favor. I do think in another world where the DCEU was strong and had people excited for it, I think a Flash movie would have done well. But in these times, people just don't want to see the DCEU. They don't want to go out and see Ezra Miller as the Flash. They don't want to
yeah.
go out and see Ben Affleck as Batman. They don't
Exactly.
want to.
It's time for a change.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Pattinson's Batman did better than the Flash did at the box office.
Yeah. And
So
that had only one Batman in it.
yeah,
Where the Flash has like um two Batman, I'll say without any
yeah.
spoilers, but
How
has two Batman.
how dare the Batman to only have one Batman?
How dare the Batman actually have a cool Batman costume
I
that
know.
Batman's wearing? No shade to Michael Keaton's costume, because that costume does look really
Yeah.
cool in The Flash, but I cannot stand Ben Affleck's Batman costume in The Flash. It is
To,
absolutely terrible.
to me, I have no shame in saying this. Ben Affleck was poorly miscast as Batman.
I disagree. I would say that the issue wasn't Ben Affleck. I think more so it was the writing, because I think especially with what happened with Justice League, how they
Yeah,
changed it up and
that's a
stuff.
whole
Like,
different animal.
yeah, it's like I think there is a reality where Ben Affleck plays the most beloved Batman of all time, and unfortunately, and this is where we talk about the DCEU, and I think really what hurt the DCEU was Batman v Superman,
Yeah,
because, and I mean, a lot of it had to do with Warner Brothers and them rearranging things. I mean, I think maybe they were the ones that told Zack Snyder to put in Wonder Woman and to put in all these
I
other
think so.
Justice League
I think so
characters,
too.
but it unfortunately gave us an introduction to Batman where he was a Batman that the audience couldn't connect with because
Yeah,
he was so
exactly.
full of rage and um, something that I think, you know, personally, I think works as like a one shot, or as, if you're a fan of comics, like as a limited series run. And I think a lot of people really would love that. But as a universe,
Yeah,
starting your universe off with that Batman, it just, people didn't connect with that.
he would have done better in like a Robert Pattinson style Batman, like a one-off. That's what you're
Yeah.
trying to say, and I think that's what really hurt his Batman. But that's the Flash. So many factors played into this. I feel like the Flash focused on word of mouth so much and not more traditional advertisement. Like there
Yeah.
was commercials here and there, but it focused more on word of mouth. People saying it's the greatest superhero movie ever, and I think that's what caused them. I mean, to go back to Barbie for a second, they're doing different things with their advertising. They're doing things that are helping people notice it and stand out more. And the Flash just tried the old fashioned word of mouth, and I don't think it worked.
And I mean, look at, they didn't even have a press tour for the Flash
No, and I think that's
because of
what
Ezra
hurt it
Miller.
too.
It's like you, and also it was weird because Michael Keaton, I think, was filming a film,
Yeah, he was.
and that's why he was never in the press tour for the movie.
Nope.
He never did a single interview, um, which is honestly terrible because your three stars of this movie are Ezra, Michael Keaton, and Sasha Calle.
Yep.
And Ezra and Michael are the two returning stars that
Yep.
we're familiar with. Ezra couldn't do interviews. You couldn't risk
Because
having
of
Ezra do
everything.
interviews. But with Michael, Michael would have been what I think drove people to see it, and they barely did anything. You know what's crazy to me is the fact that they didn't even re-release the Tim Burton Batman films in
That's what they
theaters.
should have done.
They they did such a strange thing. And Sasha, she was the one that was doing all of the press for the film, but
Exactly.
nobody
Nobody
knows who
knows
she
her.
is. And as much as I do love Sasha, you don't get somebody that inexperienced on a blockbuster film to promote a blockbuster film like that when, to be fair, you have other stars of said blockbuster film that I think audiences would recognize more. Like Ben Affleck should have been promoting it more.
Exactly.
We should have had more. I mean, I don't think Kiersey Clemens. I mean, she might have been around, but it just, and that's why the word of mouth was created, because they wanted to place a lot of the eyes on that one thing, but that one thing
Yeah.
ended up to be a promise that wasn't delivered, because a lot of people that ended up seeing The Flash, given the B cinema score, were not
Exactly.
thinking it was one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. And also the fact that Across the Spider-Verse released 2 weeks prior.
And that was an A plus, I believe.
Yeah, it's a film that, I mean, people, I mean, I don't even know if they predicted it to be that type of thing where
No.
Across the Spider-Verse is so good and their movie comes out a week, 2 weeks later, but man, it did not look good for the Flash. And now, as we talked about, the screens, it's leaving, and it's just a real shame, because the Flash is one of my favorite comic book characters, and I really think that he, as a character, deserved better, both in the reception of the film and both of the film itself, because I don't
Yeah.
think the film, wasn't. I don't think it was that good of a movie either. So yeah, it's just the it's just this it's them saying that the DCEU is dead. Like there's no
Yeah.
returning from this.
Do you think it's dead?
I don't know. I mean, um, you have Aquaman coming.
Which I think is going to flop with everything that's coming out with it.
I don't think Aquaman will, but
You didn't think the Flash would,
the thing is with Aquaman, it does have that Christmas holiday boost.
but it
Now,
has. But the problem with that is there's so many other movies coming out that time too.
like what?
First off, The Color Purple, which is by the same studio, if I might add, that
Mm-hmm.
still has a Christmas Day release day. You're gonna have Wonka before it, which is gonna be the family release, which is gonna be one of the big family ones. Again, same studio. And I believe there's a Disney movie coming out this summer too. I have to check,
Wish. Well, I think Wish comes out in November.
but I know there's. I'm gonna look it up, but you have so many other movies coming out from the same studio. Like that's three I mentioned in the same time period.
I'll say that even I mean, I don't even think Color Purple is the same demographic as Aquaman,
I'm
nor
not.
is Wonka.
I'm not saying
Um,
it is, but I'm saying though there's so many movies coming out at the same time period.
and that's the one thing, though. I think when it comes to that holiday season, that's when those movies thrive. Because if we
Yeah,
look at past holiday seasons, look at 2018, when the first Aquaman came out, we had Spider Verse and Bumblebee come out,
yeah,
and Aquaman did pretty well. So I think it will be fine actually, but I think in general though, I think the DCEU is dead, because you basically are seeing a movie like The Flash that has the returning Flash character,
yeah, exactly.
returning Batman character, and people aren't going to see it,
Nope,
and that tells you that it's dead. It's
it
bury
really
it.
is. I'm looking it up, and there was a Ghostbusters movie coming out the same day as Aquaman. Rebel Moon, which is probably gonna be still on Netflix, and then you have Migration, which is a anime movie. But yeah, there's just so many movies coming out at the same
I wonder,
time.
is that Ghostbusters movie still coming out in December?
It still has a December 20th release date.
I I didn't even realize that was coming out this year. I thought that was coming out next year.
No, it still says December 20th of this year.
I think they just started filming actually.
So they might delay it,
They
but
might, yeah.
that still concludes my point. Like, there's just so many other movies coming out at the same time
Man,
too.
did you ever see Ghostbusters Afterlife?
Yeah, I thought it was good. It was better than the Melissa McCarthy one.
Uh-huh.
But
I really enjoyed Ghostbusters Afterlife.
same.
I thought
It's not.
the
It's
cast
not the
was good.
Melissa McCarthy one was bad. It's just, to me, it just didn't feel like a Ghostbusters film.
But you know what's funny? I enjoyed that film when I first saw it, but when I rewatched it a couple years ago, I didn't like it. And I think that it has to do with the fact that it's a movie that I think really tries to be funny, but it really isn't
It
at
lacked
times.
natural humor that the original Ghostbusters did.
Hmm. And that's why I think what works with Afterlife is it's filled with a lot more heart than
Yeah,
you know the
e-
other one.
exactly. But yeah, I do agree that the DCU is dead. I think James Gunn is the only person that could rectify it. Now, with him starting over from scratch, do you think that is the best move?
Yes, I
I
think
do too.
this is what they need to do, right? Because I think that you cannot. I mean, he's not entirely starting over from scratch because he is bringing in the Peacemaker characters and he's bringing in these other elements of the DCEU. But I think what we're going to find out is that he might say, like, the Suicide Squad is not even a part of the DCEU, it's part of the DCU.
Yeah,
And, like, that's how he branches off those characters because, yes, I mean, in Peacemaker, Aquaman and Flash show up, but I think there's a way for them to move around that. I think what really is the most important movie right now for DC is Superman Legacy.
yeah.
Because if
Which is
that
what I'm
movie
about to
doesn't do
talk about.
well, ugh. I mean, it might not. It might not do well, but I have a suspicion that it might do very well.
I think so too. I'm more curious right now about Lex Luthor. That's the one I'm like. I don't get me wrong. I was excited to hear about the new Superman and Lois Lane, which we'll get to in a second. But I'm more curious about who's going to be Lex Luthor. That's where my
Mm.
brain's at.
Well, we know some of the picks that they've said that
Yeah,
they're batting around. We have Alexander Skarsgård as one of the possible choices.
yeah.
I think he'd be great.
Bill Skarsgård,
His
which to me
brother.
is my pick.
So you pick Bill. I think he'll also be great. I could see him. I could see both of them um, doing a great job. I think at one point Nicholas Holt may have been in contention, but he was then I think moved over to the Superman role.
Which
So
to me was a mistake on whoever's part was
yeah,
that.
I'm very curious on how that all worked out because I mean they paired up the Superman and Lois Lane that we have now with
Yeah,
two different actors.
exactly. Emma Mackey was the only one who did rehearsal with all three Superman.
Hmm.
So people naturally thought she was going to be Lois Lane.
And they said that, like, don't be, too confident that she is Lois Lane because of that. And they were right. They
Yep.
were right. I'm very curious why it was her that did that. I wonder if they did that with her when they knew that they already picked their Lois Lane.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think maybe in case Rachel couldn't do the role.
Or I mean, maybe like Rachel was unavailable that day
That
when they
probably was what it
when they
was.
did it, so they probably said, "Oh, let's bring Emma in."
Yeah,
And I mean, hopefully, I hope maybe she knew at the time that she wasn't going to
I
play
think so.
Lois, because that would kind of suck, you know. Like I
Yeah,
feel like if you're Emma, right? You're like, "Oh, I'm definitely going to be Lois," and then
exactly.
oh my god, that would be a horrible realization. Now, um, what this does mean is I think we'll get to see Emma when they release the audition footage of David,
That I can't wait to see.
right? Because I don't know if you remember, but when they did the auditions for
More.
Batman Begins,
Yeah, they did
Christian
that.
Bale tested with Amy Adams.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that. But I think they made a great choice with Superman. I think David Corson, is that how you say?
Corn Sweat.
Oh, Cornsman. I think they made the best choice with Superman. Lois Lane, I love Rachel. I do. But I'm not 100% sold on her just yet.
Well, have you seen Rachel's work?
Yeah, of course I have. I love Mrs. Maisel. I've seen her on House of Cards. It's
Okay.
not that she's not a great actress. I'm just struggling to picture her in a superhero movie. That's
Because
all.
I'm unfamiliar with her work, and I don't know how she'll be either. I thought the one thing when I saw her as a choice, I thought she looked a little bit um too, what's the word for it? Traditional when it comes to
Yeah,
Lois.
like
I
she
thought
looks like Lois Lane.
like I feel Emma Mackey I personally thought would have been a better choice because she
Same.
would have inhabited a modern sense to Lois that I think Rachel seems more like Margot Kidder
Yeah, she
than
seems like the more traditional.
than
But
Emma, who I think has the Margot Kidder in her, but
yeah,
she's not like the you
yeah,
know
I know what you're saying.
picturesque.
But but
Yeah,
maybe that's by choice. Maybe they want a modern-ish Superman with a classic Lois Lane. Maybe that was by
yeah,
choice.
that's why I think we found out because I think when we saw this casting, I think it's very clear that James Gunn wants to take this Donner Superman movie and he doesn't want to copy it,
Yeah,
but he wants to give the audience the same feeling I think that movie gave the audience back in the 70s, which I think is a smart thing because right now this is what we need. We need
yeah,
this Superman because if we don't get this Superman, I think Superman as a character is conflicted right now because we haven't had Superman
in a long
in a
time.
long time. And even Justice League, even Justice League has Superman absent for half of the film. And we need to establish Superman as that top
Pillar.
pillar. Yeah, that's a great word for it. Pillar of the DC universe. You cannot use him like they did. Like go in the future when we look back on what the DCEU did with Superman,
Yeah,
we will be ashamed by it because what they did with Superman was just ridiculous. Having
exactly.
his head cut off, having a silhouette of him. I mean, to a lot of kids in the future, they'll look back on it being like, "Dang, I'm happy I didn't grow up back then. Like, I'm
Yep,
glad." It'll look like a speck of dust it to them in the future, but to us, like it's probably the same feeling people had back in like the early 2000s when it
yeah,
came to Batman because
exactly.
or even early 90s to 2000s when it came to Superman because Superman's a character that's never quite had a longevity to his actors' portrayals. Like when you look at Christopher Reeve played Superman from the 70s going into
Yeah,
the 80s, but once Quest for Peace came out, it wasn't until we got Superman Returns in 2006, and then when Superman Returns in 2006 released, we didn't get another Superman movie, for another 7 years. And
exactly.
you're talking now about a character that, you know, I mean, I don't pretty much skips a generation of kids
It really
that
did.
could have had a Superman. So they got to figure out what they're doing. I'm glad that James Gunn's there. He's the writer, he's the director, and
He,
yeah.
I think this is what the DCU needed: some direction, some clarity. Because I think Marvel, why they're so successful is they kept changing with the times.
Mm.
Like they kept the tradition of their superheroes, but they were able to put modern takes, modern spins on it.
Are you, are you talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or are you talking about even
Marvel in general.
Marvel in general? Okay.
Yeah. Like they're like WandaVision, for example. Like they were able to do more different things with their superheroes. I feel like DCU have been stuck in a rut for a while, doing the same thing over and over again, keeping the same formula. Like Joker, the reason why it was so successful because it was a complete departure for them. And
The
I
thing
feel like
about the thing about like Joker though, what's funny is what the issue that DC's been having is the fact that their most interesting films have been these one-off Elseworld
exactly.
projects. And this is not what they want. They want their most interesting films to be all their films. They don't want to have like a universe that they basically have designed now
Yeah,
where it is like, to be fair, and it sucks to say this, but the Batman should never have happened. There is one avenue where the Batman is Ben Affleck's Batman movie, and you're
exactly.
getting a DC EU Batman. And then there's another avenue where we could have seen the Batman be the DCU Batman and the new
Exactly.
universe, but no, now it's in Elseworlds. And that's the problem here, where honestly, I think that one of their best films in years, being the Batman, is now a film that isn't even connected to any of their universes. So
And that's their big problem.
yeah,
Is that these standalone movies are excellent, but they're not doing anything to connect it with their actual universe. While with WandaVision and other things that Marvel's done, it's connected in some way to their other movies and other projects.
exactly.
There's no cohesion, and that's why DCU is paying the price for it.
And I mean, they tried to course correct. I remember back when you had Walter Hamada come in, and we started to see films like Birds of Prey. We started to
Yeah,
see films like, the Suicide Squad, and um, even
which,
the Flash, in a way that
yeah,
was designed to be this course correction, but
yeah,
it wasn't enough for audiences to be like, you know what, I'm I mean, because let's be fair, looking at these films like the Suicide Squad, like Birds of Prey, do you know what none of them are? None of them are Superman.
exactly.
None of them are um well, I would say none of them are Wonder Woman. We did get two Wonder Woman movies, but some of
One of
their
them
key
better, yeah.
characters, none of them are Green Lantern. Some of the key DC characters
They're
were
ignoring.
are being ignored, and we're getting characters like Black Adam, Blue Beetle,
Yeah,
that feel so detached from what we're getting. It's like if you go to the Cheesecake Factory and every single week you go, they're not selling cheesecake.
exactly.
They're selling, some other food
Yeah,
that isn't what they're known for. And you're like, oh, maybe one day it tastes good. Maybe one day it's different from what I'm used to. But at the end of the day, it's not what I came for.
exactly. I think Blue Beetle is going to struggle. I think with the strike, it's going to be so hard to promote this movie. And this movie already struggling because there's no huge celebrities on here in the cast. George
How
Lopez.
how dare you insult Susan Sarandon,
Wait,
the
Susan Sarandon's in
queen,
it?
Matthew, the
I never knew
queen.
she was in that movie.
Now
I
you
had
do.
no idea she was in Blue Beetle,
She's
but
the villain.
oh my god, I can't wait to see that now. But again, you have their main star who's a name but not a big name, and they're not going to be able to promote it that much because of the strike and the potential SAG strike. So,
Though I think if we get a SAG strike, that that the WGA will get that deal like the next day.
oh,
I
I
don't
think
think
so too.
I don't think that that SAG strike will last for that long, and
Same.
I think that um, I don't think that should be something we should worry about, especially when I think that these movies, they at this point they can't, the studios cannot afford to have the press for Barbie be compromised. They cannot afford to have
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer and all these other movies. But with Blue Beetle, I think that the marketing, especially the press, will be key to that film because
Yeah.
I think his name's Cholo. I think that's how you pronounce his
Yeah,
name.
Cholo, yeah.
He's going to be like a big deal. I think when he promotes this movie, he's gonna be
Yeah.
like, "Come see my movie. It's really good. Come see Blue Beetle. He's a really cool character." I think Blue Beetle. I'm gonna call it right now, Matthew. I think it will do well. I think it will do well, and it will show audiences that it's not DC that audiences are tired of. It's the DCEU,
Yeah.
and that might be what. Because the thing with Blue Beetle is he looks like a fun superhero,
He
right?
does.
He
And
looks
I
like a
think,
fun superhero, and that's why I think a lot of people have been missing. Black Adam is predicated under the fact that this is a bad guy that is trying to
trying
do
to
the
be
right
good.
thing. The Flash, it's DCEU. It's to many people, it's not as fun as they want it to be.
And
And
it doesn't help.
Shazam,
Yeah.
like
It doesn't help their
Shazam,
stars controversial too.
yes, Shazam just doesn't have that factor to it. Like I feel like Shazam, people just don't want to see it. Where here, Blue Beetle, he looks like a really
Yeah.
cool character.
You know what Shazam reminds me of? Ant-Man in a sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to say. That Shazam's the Ant-Man of the DC.
that's a very good comparison.
All right. Last topic I want to talk about. Now that we're in the recasting of the DCU, who would be your dream casting for any like superhero, supervillain?
Okay, so I have a list of 25 characters. I'm going to tell you them right now.
Seriously, go ahead.
So, no, no, but I mean, at this point, after days and days of manifestations of Emma Mackey as Lois Lane, I am so done with fan casting. But I will say, I think Batman. I think it would be cool to see a name actor in that role.
Same.
Right? Like, I mean, would Tom Cruise do it? Who knows? But I mean, that would be what I think people will be like, oh snap. Because it's
Yeah,
Tom Cruise.
exactly.
And you know what that means, Kale? Tom Cruise is going to actually
Save the theaters.
no, he's going to he's going to actually live in a cave. He's going to learn how to fly like Batman.
Oh my god, it's
And
so true.
all the stunts will be practical, which means that this man will literally become Batman. Like, I mean, he already has dated and married two of Batman's
Oh my
girlfriends.
god, you're so right too. I didn't even think about that.
He is Batman. Tom Cruise, he has two personalities, the Tom Cruise that everybody loves and the other Tom Cruise that a lot of people,
Hey,
um, are a little afraid of. Like he's Batman.
oh my god. Now I can't unsee it. You know what's interesting is I have someone for Bruce Wayne, but not Batman. I know that sounds crazy, but I picture Austin Butler as Bruce Wayne, but not
But
as
not
Batman.
Batman.
I know that
Hey
sounds
mom,
weird,
I'm gonna be Batman.
but I don't know why, but I picture him in that Bruce Wayne character, but I can't picture
Well,
him
if you
as
remember, in The Dark Knight, one of the photographs on the wall, I believe when they were trying to figure out who Batman was a photograph of Elvis Presley.
Batman. Oh, there you go.
So, I mean, maybe it is him. Remember, he is a Warner Brothers darling now with
Yeah,
Dune and Elvis. I thought that would work in Emma's favor because she was in Barbie, but clearly it didn't. Um,
but
we don't know. I mean, I've seen Jared. I think is it Jared Padalecki.
yeah, Jared Padalecki. Yeah,
He was one of the ones they were throwing around. I personally don't see it. I
same.
think he's a great actor. I thought he was great in The Boys, but I think you need a bigger name than that to play Batman. I think you need a George Clooney. You
Yeah,
need a Tom Cruise. Maybe we get ourselves. I don't think it'd be Austin Butler because I think this Batman's going to be a little bit older. I think
but
he's going to be
but again, I picture him as Bruce
40s.
Wayne, not as Batman. That's what I was
Yeah,
trying to say.
yeah. I mean, I think there are a number of actors. I mean,
Oh my God. I don't think he would
Stellan
do.
Skarsgård.
I don't think he would do
No,
it.
no,
But
not Stellan. I'm sorry. I think I said Stellan Skarsgård before. Alexander Skarsgård,
oh my,
his son.
that would
Stellan
be good.
Skarsgård as Batman would be very interesting.
Oh my God, you know who I thought of? He'll never do it, but Brendan Fraser as Batman.
Wow.
That just came to
Wow.
me.
I
I
mean,
don't think he would ever do it, but that would be
they do. I
insane.
hope they need to make things right with him after Batgirl. So I don't
That's
know.
the biggest. That's why I said he would never do it, but my God, that would be.
Do you think Leslie Grace will play Batgirl in the DCU?
I think so. I could see James Gunn using her in another movie. I really do.
Because that's the thing. When it comes to the Brave and the Bold, the Batman movie, we will
Yeah,
see the Bat family,
yeah.
and that includes Batman, Robin,
Thank God.
Batgirl. I mean, Nightwing. You have um like a whole slew of other Batman
Yeah,
family characters, but they're like the main ones. Probably we'll see Red Hood if they use him, but um, but I think that would be a really cool idea if they do bring Leslie back to play Batgirl in the DCU,
yeah,
and then they could maybe base it, because like that way, it feels. I really hope we get Sasha Calle as Supergirl and Leslie as Batgirl in
I
DC.
think you will. I really think you will.
It'd be really, I think, really respectful to those actors to do that.
Yeah,
But
I
it'll
think we.
also it'll
I think
also
we.
make me watch The Flash, and I won't.
Yeah,
The next time I watch The Flash, I won't be like, "Damn, we don't get to see her again."
I think we will. I trust James Gunn. I think if James Gunn was in charge back then, I think Batgirl would have been released somewhere.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
really think
definitely.
so. The fact that they did that and kept the Flash is something I'll never understand. They lost more money releasing the Flash over Batgirl, and I think
So,
that's hilarious.
so, uh, uh, what a, well, what a, we just have to hope for the best. We
Yeah,
really do, because at this point, I don't know,
yeah.
what is to come. But all we know is the fact that we have two actors playing Superman and Lois that I think are going to be really good,
I
especially
think
David, who I really loved in Pearl, and
same here.
I think he's going to be a huge star. I think he's honestly, I think, going to be the Robert Downey of the MCU, but now to the DCU, because he is that big of a deal to DC.
Not for Superman, but I could see him winning an Oscar one day. I really can.
Yeah, I mean,
Like he's that good.
what oh man, like, oh, I'm so happy because it was his dream. Like that was a dream of his to play Superman. And
Exactly.
he got it. It's like, that's what you love to hear. You never love to see actors, um, just get a role and be like, oh yeah, I got it for the money. Like to hear an
Yeah.
actual actor.
So excited. But yeah, I think I'm very happy for David. And I'm excited to see what's going to happen going forward. I think we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for joining us. Kyle, thank you so much for joining. It's been a pleasure. And comment down below what you think about all the DC news. Who would be your dream casting going forward? Till next time, bye.